How do Bama and Indiana stack up statistically?
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA Radio Network's Luke Robinson. That's me. Alabama internet legend Jimmy Stein. That's him. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. We'll talk about FanDuel in just a little bit. Want to thank you, everydayers, for joining us every day because you made Locked On the number one sports podcast network there is, and we're a part of that. So we appreciate you. We're just going to ride their coattails to greatness. That's the way I've led most of my life. So, Jimmy, we'll talk some more about the Everydayer Club you can join in just a little bit. That's gotten a lot of fun because Michael Asian Jimmy has joined, and he is a wonderkind when it comes to the AI machines. Look, if AI ever attacks us, I'm going to his house. I think he's the only one that can save us.
Yes, because he has real intelligence. It's not even artificial.
It's not artificial. Okay, so Alabama, Indiana, statistically, I want to give props where props are due. This topic actually came up from Charlie Potter at BOL, but I like it because, I'm not really stealing anything because these are just stats. I mean, stats are stats, but we can make of them what we will. And the one thing that jumps out, and this is the one thing everybody's going to talk about, and I think this one thing is, in this particular case, completely overblown, but it's going to be when people are predicting this game, and I've already seen several people predicting it, and the vast majority are predicting Indiana to win. They always come back to Alabama can't run the ball and Indiana can. Mm-hmm. That is also seen in the fact that Indiana's rushing offense is 10th in the nation. Alabama's is 120th in the nation. I can't argue with you. I'm not. The stats are just right there. We suck at running the American football. There is nothing else to say. But my counter to that would be, hey, we know it. You know it. So if it's that big of a deal and we've played this schedule, which is clearly tougher than Indiana's, and let me pull up the strength of schedule really quickly. I should have had that right here with me, and I didn't.
I think it's about 30-6.
Well, dang it, I can't find it. Doesn't matter. It's probably about 30-6. You're right. So Alabama's schedule has clearly been more arduous, yet they still are 10-3. Or are we? Yeah, we're 10. Are we 11-3 or 10-3?
11. I think we're 11-3 now.
11-3.
11-3. I think what's curious about Alabama's 11-3 mark is, I mean, only in 2025 will this happen, right? Two of the teams we've lost to, we've also beaten. So, I mean, not many people have ever said that in college football history at this point in the season, right? Well, we lost two games. Well, two of the three games we lost to, I wouldn't say we avenged both losses because we actually lost to Georgia round 2, beat Oklahoma round 2. The running the ball thing is huge, and this is why I like to. I know this bums people out, and I'm sorry about that for a moment, but when I try to, analyze a game, I start with this. If it doesn't go well for Alabama, why not? Why won't this go well? And here's the thing. Alabama can't run the ball, and Indiana's good at stopping whatever run you have. Even if you were pretty good at running the ball, Indiana's pretty good at stopping it. So we know going in, Indiana has a decided advantage in the run game because they do run the ball pretty well. Alabama's good against the run. I don't think Indiana's going to run wild over Alabama, but they're going to have more success running the ball than Alabama is. I have felt all along, and I bet most of you listening will reluctantly or even not reluctantly agree, at some point, not being able to run the ball is going to bite you and cost you the season. And this sort of feels like it, right? I mean, if Alabama doesn't win the game next Thursday, I think we'll be on here reaction show wise, well after the game, and we're going to be saying, couldn't run the ball all year. Couldn't run the ball tonight. Indiana did, or Indiana had more success running the ball than Alabama did. They outrushed us 100 yards to 25 yards, and that ended up being the difference in a relatively close game. I can see us saying that. Now, I'm not actually predicting a loss. I'm actually going to predict an Alabama win. But if Alabama loses, it's this. It's this. I mean, this is why I've said 1,000 times now, it's got to be the top priority of the offseason is relearning how to run the football and running it well, because this isn't a model for long-term success.
I'm going to tell you something. I love this podcast that we do because when we start talking, I can't get a lot of ideas beforehand. But since we started talking about this, I was like, the one way statistics can be misleading is if you are let's look at Indiana's best running games against the worst competition. Let's see how that skews the stats. And that didn't even dawn on me to look on it until we started talking about this. So on most regular shows, people have a pre-production meeting and do this.
Yeah.
You and I are getting light bulbs above the head as we talk. That's why I think it's great. But now, so for instance, as people probably noticed, if you were talking, like if you're watching that, I kept looking down and writing stuff down. I started looking at, okay, listen to this. The 4 worst teams Indiana played this year. Now, you could probably pick nits, like was one of them UCLA or Purdue or whatever. I tend to go with Purdue, Indiana State, Kennesaw State, and Old Dominion. Fair?
Yes.
Okay.
More than fair.
Well, then listen to this. Their rushing stats for those 4. For ODU, they rushed for 309 yards, and they only beat them 29-14 or 27-14. That's a weird score. Kennesaw State, they beat all they wanted to just a little bit, and they rushed for 313. Indiana State, they beat them 73-0 and rushed for 301. And Purdue, they beat the heck out of them and rushed for 355. My point is this, that yes, Indiana's rushing stats, and I'm not trying to poo-poo them. I'm not trying to tell you they can't run the ball. I am saying, can we at least admit their running game, the success of their running game should be mitigated somewhat by the fact they're not playing Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, Indiana State, and Purdue?
I think that's an outstanding, obviously they racked up numbers against inferior competition. I think that's why when you compare them stat wise to Alabama, it has to start with the fact that Alabama's played a much tougher schedule week to week. And there's no question that's true. So when you go back and look at those numbers, on the one hand, it's very illuminating. It is very illuminating. It's probably not too surprising. On that same token, and I'm stealing this from a tweet from let's give him credit here, the Bear Bryant's burner. Thanks for this. The truth behind Fernando Mendoza says 27 of his 33 touchdown passes came against Kennesaw, Indiana State, Illinois, Michigan State, UCLA, Wisconsin, and Purdue. The other 6 were against Iowa, Oregon, Penn State, Maryland, and Ohio State. So Fernando Mendoza also racked up his Heisman winning numbers primarily against the lesser competition. Now, on the one hand, I think some people will take that information and go, see, they just haven't played anybody. When they play somebody good, they won't look as good. Yeah, no crap. I think that's true, period, of just about everybody. I say all the time about the schedule strength issue is a lot like golf. I think a lot of people can go out and shoot 78 on their local municipal course. And then when you go to Augusta and play Augusta National, you're not going to shoot 78. Probably going to shoot 88. You might even shoot in the 90s or 100, depending on how far back you're playing the course. The point is, when you play a tougher course, of course your score won't be as good. It shouldn't be as good. This is where I'm going to give Indiana credit and point out something good for Alabama here. When they've played somebody good, somebody clearly good, they've won. Let's give them all the credit in the world. No one else has. They've won. I give them all the credit for that. They've won close games against good teams. They deserve nothing but credit, but it's worth pointing out. They beat Ohio State by 3. They beat Oregon by 10.
Beat Iowa by 5.
They beat Iowa by 5. They beat Penn State by 3. I would say those are probably the 4 most gifted teams they played all year. All close games. That's why I get, and y'all have seen me tweet about this a little bit this week, I get a little bristled when Indiana talks about blowing Alabama out. I wouldn't be upset at all if an Indiana fan tweeted, Alabama's pretty good, but we're better. I think we're going to win by a touchdown or 10 or 12 points. Okay. I wouldn't even comment to that. I'm not going to like the tweet, but I'm not going to comment to it. But it's we're going to kill these guys. Why did they think Alabama's Illinois and Purdue and not Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State and Iowa. That's the part that gets to me is like, dude, I think Alabama's a little better than y'all think.
They are reminding me, at least their fans are, a little bit of Thomas Castellanos, who, by the way, is declared for the NFL draft, so we won't have to play him next year. I don't know if I'm happy or sad about that, but
I hate that he retired from college football as our daddy.
Yeah. So
is.
their fans are just they are both incredibly cocky and feel slighted at every turn. And there's one podcast in particular, I'm not going to name their name because they don't have enough traction to matter, but they keep throwing stuff against the wall just to try and make themselves more popular. And they keep saying this is the new way versus the old way. Alabama's way to build football dynasties doesn't work anymore. I'm like, it doesn't. I mean, we're still kind of in it, and Georgia's doing it the same way, and so is Ohio State. I mean, it's so dumb when somebody who hasn't had success wants to tell everybody else this is the new way to do it. This is the only way to do it. No, you kind of backed into Kurt Cignetti, and congratulations, and we think he's good, and we think you're pretty good. Now, one more thing I want to say about the statistics we've been talking about. So while you were talking again, I started looking up some other stuff because I can't do all this at once. The running games, I'd say the best 3 wins they had. Now, somebody may challenge me on Iowa versus Illinois, but I'm going to say Iowa was at least a tougher game because it was on the road.
Yep.
The 3 toughest games I think they played were Oregon, Ohio State, and Iowa. Their running totals in those games, 111 for Oregon, 118 for Ohio State, and 104 for Iowa. So if you look at it that way, and I would say Alabama has played more teams like those 3. Now,
Yep.
The other thing I would add to, which sounds like an insult, but is really kind of a compliment to how we've won, we don't put up those numbers against anybody.
That's what I'm saying.
So
we wouldn't rush for 100 yards against a mob of angry toddlers. So
if we played Mama and them A&M, they would stop our running game. People are like, well, we're going to shut down your running game. I'm like, join the club. I mean, everybody has shut down our running game. And so you should be scared by the fact there's like, yeah, we've shut down their running game. They still won 11 games in the SEC.
I think those numbers are really interesting. If we hold them to around those same rushing numbers, they won't be able to, quote, dominate Alabama on the ground, but they're very likely to outrush us. Sounds to me like they're going to outrush us. Let's go 125 to 45, which is bad. I'm not saying that's good, but I'm not saying it, but that shouldn't alone blow Alabama out. The game should still be tight and tie, and the receivers can win it, and which ultimately is what I'm going to predict later.
Any other year, it would be catastrophic. This year, we go, yeah, that sounds about what we would predict. The other thing I would say at this point, I think it's more likely because, again, the rule of eventually some good deadgum things got to happen. I think the rule, whatever rule that is, it's right after Murphy's Law. It's the rule of some deadgum good things got to happen. Eventually, we're going to run for 100 and something yards against somebody. Now, is it against Indiana? I don't know. I don't know. It may not. Probably not. I mean, honestly, but I think it's going to happen in these playoffs, assuming we beat Indiana and move on. But see, we've already had our -3 rushing yard game. We've already had some other games that were close to that. I think eventually we're going to have one where we run for more yards than people think, and people go, well, y'all hadn't done that all year because we still can't. It's going to be the anomaly, just like -3 was an anomaly.
My hope is that it's East Carolina, September 5th, 2026.
No, you want to do it. You want to do it in this playoff.
I want to do it in the playoff. I've just sort of given up on running the ball. What I just hope is that we continue to stay committed to it to the point that it helps tie in the pass game, because that's our chance to win the football game.
Well, you're going to have several chances to win if you use FanDuel. Okay. NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. If a receiver gets hot, or if a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover, FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scores or drive results or totals and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, so can you. Taking a little break from the game just for a minute, there are a lot of reasons to think Alabama may end up with a pretty coveted portal target, assuming he does get in the portal, because nobody's in the portal yet because the portal's not open. People are just declaring their intention to get in the portal. And that's Devin Tompkins. I'm going with Devin. You're going with Devon. One of us will be right. We think it's probably pronounced Kevin or something. I mean, by the time we're all said and done.
Sort of hope we find out. Good player. Yeah, he's a defensive tackle. He's an interior player, 6'5", 290, athletic enough to play outside, big enough to play inside. That sounds exactly like a defensive lineman that Alabama would be interested in. They certainly recruited a lot of those types in this last class. He's an interesting prospect because he started out as a 3-star out of high school, was more of a basketball player than a football player, and I believe left high school around 225 or 230 and is now 290. So, kids grow like that. So there's an athlete in this kid that was playing basketball and was pretty good at it in high school. Now he's grown to be a 290-pound guy. So you can tell there's a real athlete here. He is, I think, On3 ranks him, should he enter the portal at this juncture, one of the top 20 or 30 players overall in the portal.
They have him number 8.
That's a sort of high-value player. And it goes to show how few great tackles are in the portal, because I'm about to say something that's going to get y'all maybe not uninterested, but like it just goes to show how interior players are just looked at differently than anyone else. His statistical season, by the way, this is a full-time starter at Southern Cal. And my understanding from Southern Cal, I don't think they were happy to see him go. This is not someone they pushed into the portal. This is someone they wanted to keep, and he's leaving. His season statistically, I mean, again, the number 8 player in the portal per On3. Statistically, his season mirrors, is almost identical to James Smith's. So if you think on over this season, I don't know what all of y'all listening to this think of the season James Smith just put on the field. That was Tompkins at USC. Virtually the same. Like 31 tackles, 3 sacks, 6.5 tackles for loss. Like, he's got the same stat line as James Smith. I consider that really good because James Smith, to me, is a future NFL player, a quality lineman in this league, a player that I sincerely hope returns to Alabama for his senior season. And I think it'd be great to have Tompkins basically lining up next to him or with him or just on the same team. But basically what I'm saying is, production-wise, statistically, this is James Smith. Now, I wouldn't compare them athletically or for the NFL the same. James, a naturally bigger dude, naturally bigger in the interior. Tompkins, more of an athlete learning to play inside with this new big body he's got, where James Smith was just sort of huge from the get-go. Anyway, just interesting to me that I think that he compares to James Smith and yet as a top 10 player in the portal, probably not super pricey. But at the same time, I think one of the reasons he's going to be in this affordable market for Alabama is the early word is he wants to play for Alabama. I think he sees. My guess is USC hasn't been good on defense, doesn't have a great reputation for being good on defense. I think he wants to play in the SEC for a big-time SEC defense to really prove himself to the next level.
Fair. And look, if you told me we're getting another James Smith, I'm all in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think everybody should be good with that. I think they would just be surprised that his stat line is only, quote, 31 tackles, 3 sacks, 6.5 tackles for loss.
I wonder what Peter Wood's stat line was this year, because
great point. It wouldn't blow people away.
It wouldn't blow people away. And he's going to be a top 10 pick.
It would probably be similar. It's just hard to rack up a lot of stats. Tim Keenan, who's been playing really well lately, he has 14 tackles. Not the last game. In 2025, 14 tackles.
But what it is?
It's difficult to affect the game statistically from that spot. You can play really, really, really well, and your stat line is empty, but you still played really well. That's a fact.
The thing about Tim Keenan to me is, and this is one of the last things about sports that's unbelievably great, because you can't really put a finger on it as to why it happens. Sort of like, how is Robert Horry got so many NBA rings and he affected so many series with his late shots? Because it wasn't like he went down as an all-time great Steph Curry three-point shooter. He was just big shot Bob. He just had that in him, and you can't. That's something that's inside you that nobody can quantify. And then Tim Keenan, same way. It's like his stats aren't great, but guess who was there to either block / fall on a muffed punt from the punter? It was him. Who was there to fall on the fumble at South Carolina that Deontay Lawson called? It was Tim Keenan. It's like he's just around stuff and makes it happen, and you can't. There was a great X-Files one time about a guy who had like all this incredible luck, and at the very beginning he was playing against the mafia in some poker game, and he said, I need to draw 4 cards. And he had like all his money out there, and everybody's like, okay, you're going to draw 4 cards. And he ended up drawing the cards that made him have a royal flush, and the mafia guy had 4 of a kind. Of course, he wins. And then they think he's cheating, so they throw him off the balcony. And when they throw him off the balcony, he lands in like a laundry chute and is perfectly okay and all this stuff. The whole thing being he had a cosmic level of luck for some reason, and Mulder and Scully were trying to figure out why. And some people may not like the X-Files. I love the X-Files, and the old X-Files, not the new crap stuff. But by the way, to give people more sense of how the transfer portal rankings are looked at. So number 1 is an edge named Chaz Coleman from Penn State. Number 2 is a quarterback. Number 3 is a defensive lineman. Number 4, quarterback. 5, quarterback. 6, quarterback. 7 is an offensive tackle. And 8 is Devin Tompkins. So what I'm saying is all the one, it's either quarterback, which we all believe is the most important position in all the sports, or the guys that either attack the quarterback or protect the quarterback.
It's exactly like the NFL draft. Exactly like the NFL draft. They're just value positions. The quarterback, players that affect the quarterback, players that protect the quarterback. Those are the only positions that you'll ever see drafted number 1 anymore. Remember one year, I think a wide receiver from Nebraska, went number 1 overall. I think his name was Irving Fryer. He went like number 1 in the draft. He was a good NFL player, but proof that the number 1 player in the draft should never be a wide receiver.
Keyshawn Johnson was too, wasn't he?
I think that's right. And he was good. But should he have been the number 1 pick in the whole draft?
Of course not.
And that's, but quarterback, offensive tackle, defensive pass rusher, even defensive tackle, that's your gold. That's your highest value position. So I'm not surprised they'd be at the top of the transfer portal. And again, Devin Tompkins, whatever, same guy. If he's a James Smith level producer, yeah, he should be ranked pretty high, despite the fact that you might not be knocked out by the numbers.
The GM should be fired. First, he was like, I got this wide receiver I want to pick. He's 6'4". He runs a 4.2. He's big and he's strong and he catches everything. Oh, yeah, where's he from? Nebraska. Next. How many good wide receivers have literally come out of Nebraska? No offense to Nebraska people. I do want to say this, too. If you look on the crawler below us, LockedOnBama.com/Everydayer Club, you can join the Everydayer Club. Thank you for making Locked On Bama your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the number 1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, go check out the Everydayer Club. It's listed down there below, LockedOnBama.com/Everydayer Club. It's $5 a month or $50 for the year. And it's just, you get to be on a Discord with Jimmy and me and a bunch of other dudes who like Bama the way we like Bama.
We're getting some gal participation.
We are getting some ladies on there. And then also you get an ad-free podcast. If you don't like listening to the ads, now you still got to listen to my live reads, but I try to jazz them up.
Who would want to miss that?
That got me a little bit.
Well, it's one of the highlights of the show.
I don't even know what I was supposed to do now. Oh, yeah, go to Game Time. Game Time. Somebody in the Discord did say, I will sign up for $5 if Luke will quit saying Game Time like that. Like, I'm not. Never. Game Time. I love Game Time. And I've used it. Somebody did say they use Game Time for the Rose Bowl tickets, and I love you, sir or ma'am. There's nothing like college football season, tailgates, packed stadiums, and being right there in the middle of it all. The energy, the bands, the moments you remember forever, but actually getting tickets, That part used to be frustrating, along with long queues and logins and prices jumping up at checkouts. That's why Game Time gives you the advantage. It gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to unlock amazing college football tickets and experiences in just a few taps. Open Game Time, that app, it was so awesome. And it only took me a few taps to find out everything's going for about 25 smacks in all these various places and things I want to see. I might be going to a Lakers game before the Rose Bowl, and I'll get my tickets from Game Time. So looking forward to it. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's all one word for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply because they apply to everything. Again, that's Locked On College for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. That, of course, as always, is a Jimmy Stein guarantee.
I haven't been, but I bet the traffic getting downtown to the LA Forum, I bet it's a breeze.
First of all, I don't think they play at the Forum anymore, do they?
Do they not? I mean, Staples Center.
The traffic going there, I don't think it's this. I think it's Crypto Arena now.
It's the same place, isn't it? I mean, they just changed the name, or is it new?
Is Staples was different than the Forum, I think.
Okay.
But now Staples is Crypto, and where we're staying. Oh, actually, we changed where we're staying, so I'm not going to be close to it. So I might not do it. I don't know.
I'm just saying. I think the traffic getting to such might be a thing.
The one positive to my traveling a lot is I do rack up some travel points, and so I'm getting the room essentially for free, and so that's good news. But anyway, shout out to the guy at PF Chang's who who works at PF Chang's. Like Christmas Eve night, I went over there to go pick up. Everybody gets Chinese food Christmas Eve,
because it's a Christmas story. Christmas story started all that,
and so I went over there. And the guy, like, I could tell, like, people at PF Chang's that night were working their tails off. Jimmy, that place was slammed. And so over at the summit, and this guy came up to me. He goes, Luke. And I was like, who's seeing me right now? Because I looked awful and I was, just ready to go home. And he said, love the show. And he just fist bumped him. And he was sweating like nobody's business. And I was like, man, you're working your tail off. And anyway, thank you. I assume that was PF himself. Was that Mr. Chang? It could have been. I don't know. Anyway, no, that'd be a little funnier. It's not. Maybe it was Devin Chang.
Paul Feinbaum's Changs.
All right. One thing that came up the other day, and I don't really know how to feel about this. Mm-hmm. Notre Dame and USC are going to have to cancel their series for a little bit because USC's like, hey, we don't want to play y'all in the middle of the season or at the end of the season anymore because we're in the Big Ten. And it's one thing to play y'all like that when we're in the Pac-12 and the next week we got Oregon State or something. Now we got to play Indiana, then Notre Dame, then Ohio State, then Michigan. And we don't want to do that. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm on board with USC here. And a lot of people are saying they're scared and they do this and they do this. But you do have to consider that USC's never made the playoffs. So if you don't, let's let them get in first.
Their
before
problem isn't schedule strength; it's winning games.
Exactly. So I mean, if you have a schedule strength of 10,000, but you're 6-6, you're not going to the playoffs. So if I'm USC, I'm like, hey, I'm in the Big Ten now. I'm getting some of that extra credit. And Indiana, Kirk Cignetti came out and said, hey, we ain't scheduling anybody worth a damn. We're going to keep doing ODU and Indiana State and Kennesaw State until y'all make us quit. And so if I'm USC, as much as I hate it, because even though I think that rivalry is overblown, USC, Indiana, some people are like, this is one of the more historic rivalries. I mean, if somebody said you got to cut out 5 historic rivalries, that'd probably be one of the ones I cut out. I'm just not, it doesn't move the meter for me, especially when neither one of these has peed a drop in 21 years. But I do look at it like I don't want this to happen to somebody with Alabama. Now, non-conference, it won't happen because we don't have any. Penn State used to be it, and it is kind of happening with us and say LSU, and there's some people really pissed about that.
Yeah, it's a little disappointing. On one hand, it's disappointing to lose such a big game off the inventory for fans, and I hate losing USC Notre Dame just because. Hey, like everybody else, I'll look at the schedule for the upcoming Saturday and games that I'm interested in, games that I want to watch. That's one annually I would say, well, USC Notre Dame might be a game that's a big deal for us to watch. Now, Here's one weird thing about USC. I watch a lot of college football, as everybody knows. I watch a ton of it on Saturday. For some reason, I just sort of missed USC all year. I bet I saw USC for less than 20 minutes all year long. That's partly USC's fault for not being a hugely significant team. But they weren't bad. They weren't bad. They weren't bad. I just somehow, some way missed USC a lot. I didn't see a lot of them all year. And now I'll see even less of them because USC Notre Dame
Yeah.
might be something I'd watch for at least a few minutes. But I don't blame USC here. The loser here is Notre Dame. Schedule strength is a massive issue for them right now. And they just lost a team that's kind of perennially in the top 20, top 25. They just lost a top 25 opponent. That's a blow to their schedule. USC doesn't need the schedule strength. They're in the Big Ten. Anyone playing in the SEC and Big Ten does not need schedule strength. What they need is to win a few games and get a break. USC doing this makes all the sense in the world. Notre Dame's got to be like, scheduling might be an issue for us going forward.
I hope it hurts Notre Dame. And here's why. Not because I hate Notre Dame, which I know a lot of you probably do. I don't really hate them. But I hope it hurts them because part of me is like, I'm sort of hoping USC is also saying, yeah, we don't want to do middle of the season, late season with these guys anymore. Also, because they're being such jackasses about the whole, oh, if we're in the top 12, we're automatically in. Okay, we're going to ding your strength of schedule a little bit. Let's see if you can get in the top 12 if you play all the armed services and you play Purdue and you play Stanford. You know, you better come up with some other people that are going to play you, and you might have to kiss a little butt to do that. Now, Notre Dame is going to get extra credit because they're Notre Dame anyway. So if they played Stanford 12 times, some people, and they went undefeated, some people would say, yeah, you got to let them in. I'm not of that ilk, especially not anymore. So I hope it dings them a lot, and I hope it makes Notre Dame come down off their high horse a little bit. They've really shown their butts, being passed over by Alabama and Miami this year when their gripe was with the G5 people. I mean, I agree. They're one of the top 12 teams, and it sucks we have to let two teams that we know aren't one of the top 12 teams. It sucks. We have to let two of them in this year. It sucks. But that's where your gripe lies, and it's not about if you're in the top 12 anymore, you should get an auto bid. Y'all have chosen not to get in the conference where some built-in good games would be there. Y'all have chosen to say, well, we love playing Stanford. Who the hell doesn't? So, all right. Well, that's going to do it for today's pod. We'll be back soon with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.